Space vehicle pre-count operations will start on my mark at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, traders? Hope everybody's having a great evening. It is Wednesday, September 6th, and we'll be doing a recap and analysis of the S&P 500, the Spider ETF, and looking forward to tomorrow, back half of the week. And look for some areas where we may want to engage the market and manage our risk. Before we get into that, the first big backdrop that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is the plethora of Fed speakers we have tomorrow. Let's take a quick look. We also do have initial jobless claims right at 8:30 as well, so we want to pay attention to that print. But then right at 9 o'clock, we've got Harker speaking, and at 11:45, Goolsby, and at 15:30 we've got John Williams, and then a Bostic comes on later into the close and in the evening. So we just want to err on the side of caution, maybe with our position sizing. We don't want to get stuck in any tape bombs from what one of these Fed's speakers may or may not say tomorrow. So I think that's an important backdrop to keep in our minds. But a lot of interesting developments today in the market, so let's kind of go over them and see what we can come up with potentially for some ideas coming into tomorrow. Now markets were down. Final print coming in at 446 22. They were down about $3 or so, about 0.67%. We're down a little bit lower than that in the morning session, and showing a little bit of a rebound into the afternoon. But from my loyal subscribers and faithful listeners, it should be no surprise where we actually stopped today. What did we do? And we were talking about this potential back test of the 444 area, which is that key area. We've talked about it ad nauseum here, so it should have been no surprise to you guys where we stopped and offered a nice long opportunity into the back half of the day. It's an encouraging sign. I would say that the bulls were able to hold this and push price back upwards. Now we did still close below the daily 9 period moving average here, but not by too much. It's just sitting right at 447. So really not a convincing close below the daily 9 in my opinion. Now, we also have a couple of other things just to keep in mind. We do have that old adage from the market: sell Rosh Hashanah, buy Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah actually hits a day before the Apple event, which I believe is on the 12th. We do want to keep that in the back of our mind. Of course, you don't place a trade just based on that alone, but it's interesting how that coincides this year with the Apple event the day after. Potentially, can we see Apple, have a run up into this event? Now, today it did have some bad news and was down, dragging tech down. Today it was down about 3.5%, I think, or 3% at some points during the day. And I actually did take a swing yesterday on that to run up to the event. Got smoked on that trade, had to get out, but I did re-enter today towards the end of the day for that potential that event run up. But I will certainly be out before the event. As they say, you play the run up, and you sell the news before. So can Apple really help push the market back up after that bad news today? Well, we'll have to see. But if bigger picture here though, if we do start to lose 444 or 444, this retest, we'll be having to look for potential lower prices, and I wouldn't be surprised at that point. Where would we potentially be heading? Well, maybe right down here to retest 440, and that would also give us a nice confluence with this megaphone trendline breakout, which we had tested before. Now we're going to be testing it again. But structurally speaking, I think think it's worth noting here that really, what's going on, in the market, right? We have our swing low, right here. Now, what do we put in here? Then a higher low, and now we have another higher low. So 3 higher lows here. That is a good constructive trend being developed for the bulls and this potential uptrend. But it's anybody's guess with the, of course, historic data with the month of September as well. It's anybody's guess if this will be able to hold. But if they do break today's low and that key 444, well, then look out. We could be seeing those lower prices. But, honestly, I would not, even if we come back into this area here by 440, that could set us up for a move back in the other direction towards the for the end of the year, heading back up this way. So that is something that we will watch how that plays out. But Yom Kippur, I believe, is around the 24th, 25th or so. So we'll have to see what time of the month that this actually gets, if price does come into there or not. Either way, we'll be ready. So I think this is the main takeaway here from this daily chart that we're looking at, and that's all I have to go over for this chart. So let's start to take a look at some other ones and see what we can possibly dig up from those. Okay, so let's look at our big picture chart here. And I did mention I did take take the 440 puts. I know I mentioned that maybe, I don't remember how many videos ago, maybe 3 or 4 videos ago, how I de-risked off the 430 puts as they were not doing too well. And then I reloaded on the 440s. Those actually ended up paying pretty nicely today. Gave me about 50-60% on those. Got most of them out because we did come into this key retest today. So only holding a really small position on that, but nice to see those bear some fruit for us. That being said, we're going to watch this gap tomorrow. Are the bulls going to fight to try to fill it? It's a possibility, and we'll see. Maybe, we fill the gap and we start to stall out right around 450, and the top of the gap is 449, 25, 15 area. So I don't know if they'll get to 450. They could do a little look above and then fail back below, but it'll be interesting to see when that gap is filled. Do we start to just resume the downward trend? But it's anybody's guess, so we'll have to see. All right, what else are we going to look at here? Let's take a look at our major pivots and trend lines and see what we are looking at from that perspective. All right, here we are on our bigger picture trend lines. Let me expand this here. You can see really how nicely this pivot was perfect right here. And we did recapture this trend line as well. But you can see here we're kind of stuck right now. We're just in this kind of no man's land here and stuck right below our next key bull pivot area, which is going to be up by the 447, 40 area, 50 area. So bulls are really going to need to recapture this for more upward momentum. It's also very possible that we just end up maybe trading sideways, something that we should be aware of, and kind of trading like this. So that is another potentiality that we have to be aware of. It's a decent range, 444 to 447, 50 or so. I mean, that's tradable, but a lot of traders can get chopped up when we get into those range environments. So we'll have to see there. Okay, all right. So what else do we want to go over? I think that's pretty much all for the macro charts. I don't think I have anything on the bigger picture fibs right now. Let's just take a quick look at those and then get into some other data points and charts. I think one interesting thing right here, at least from a fib perspective, is we did recapture just barely the 23.6. We're pretty much sitting right on it at 446.25. But why don't we do this? Why don't we do a new fib? We take it from this swing low, and we'll come up to this local current swing high here and see if there's anything that we can take away from this other perspective. And let me, okay, there we go. All right, really not too much, but sometimes I like to do this to kind of give us another viewpoint here. I think that the big thing, the big takeaway from this is really to see that momentum come in for the bulls. It's kind of halfway through the gap, but I think that we'll be watching 448. 75, that area. Certainly if that clears, we'll have the chance to fill that gap. But, I think the first step obviously is just to get over today's high, and that will put us back in and give us that chance for the gap fill. But what happens after we fill the gap up in the 449.25 area, 50 area, that is anybody's guess, because we could certainly be met with some sellers in the auction at that in that area. All right, so why don't we look at a couple of other stats here for us. The biggest thing, I was mentioning earlier, let's take a look here at our sectors. The biggest thing is, of course, tech really took a huge hit today with Apple, but our two biggest risk-on sectors here did get slammed today, and we're down almost 2%, 1.5%. On the XLK and the XLY. So the only thing that was slightly green today was energy. It's been pretty strong, but barely eked out a green close, and then XLU. So most of the sectors today were definitely red. Looking at the volume distribution today, opened up pretty much below the zero line, so negative inflows for volume here, but the volume wasn't as powerful in the day yesterday, at least to the downside. So I think that's a little bit interesting, and you can see that here if we change this over to the D-vol, which is the declining volume, you can see that yesterday it actually was stronger. Now with these net outflows lining up for today, that's potential, a potential theory. But you can see here how we did not get over yesterday's decreasing volume. So I think that's interesting to note. But if we let's look at the up volume now by itself. And let's see what we got. Whoops. And here's the advancing volume, and a little bit stronger. So you can see the difference here in the down volume. It was it's lining up here how it wasn't as strong. Now we're looking at the uptick, but you can see here it's stronger. On the declining, weaker yesterday, but today stronger on the up volume. So I think that's kind of interesting, and could kind of be signaling here how the up volume today was just a little bit stronger. So that could signal that we could see that potential. I don't know, if we'll get the whole gap fill, but we could see some upward momentum tomorrow. Other thing I wanted to mention, though, as far as the advancers decliners, still weak. We really want to see, the bulls would really want to see this open above zero tomorrow. But today you can see we cracked it and never even had a chance to get back over that zero line. So let's see how these internals look tomorrow. If we get a positive ADD, I think that would be an encouraging sign for the markets and the potential to get a bit of a continuation from the afternoon bounce that we saw today. All right, the other thing I wanted to mention before we get into any of the other charts here. Now, what was the big thing that we were watching that kind of was also showing us that this rally may not have had legs was the percentage ratio of the companies in the S&P that were trading over that 50-day moving average. And we were talking about this 50% line. We were not over it, really not showing that complete market participation. And what do we get? Kind of a double top there, and boom, down. So that was a good indication that we that this fading this rally could have been something that a trader would want to consider. The 200 average here is just sitting right at that 50% line, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Hopefully, for the bull's sake, tomorrow they're able to push this up a little bit higher and get a few more of those stocks in the market back above the 50% line. But let's see what happens. All right, let's start to look at some bigger picture charts here for tomorrow's daily plan, and then we will get into it. Let's look at it from a smaller perspective on the day trading fibs here, and let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we've pretty much, all right, there we go. All right, so the big thing here, and it's an interesting spot where we're hanging out right at the highs, right, from where we saw that big turn. So tomorrow, ideally, if you're a bull, you want to really see us opening a little bit above this 50% line here. We could call it 447, 446.50. We want to see that above there, hold. I think the 447 would be, probably better holding above, because that's going to be this top wick here, holding above that, and we could see prices come up higher. The other thing, though, that I wanted to mention is, at least from this 4-hour candle perspective, what happened today, and we talk about this all the time, we got a 50% retracement of that move. So I would have kind of rather this happen tomorrow morning. If we were just hanging out down here, then we made that 50% retracement, and then we potentially did something, kind of came over and then started rolling back over like that. That would have been a play that I would have looked at. But so we've got kind of two scenarios tomorrow, depending on where we open. Are we going to start to roll over? We're going to see. If we start to open up and we're still below this the 446.25, 446, we can kind of maybe think that we might retrace, and maybe we could even cut this candle in half and maybe do a 50% retracement down to 445, which we will talk about in a moment when we look at our balance areas, but maybe a 50% retracement of this candle and then head back up. That is another potentiality as well. But if we do open up and we are really nicely above that 446.25 and ideally 447, well, that's going to give us a chance to push prices up higher for us and potentially come up into, let me just delete those so we get a new view. We can push up this way, and maybe what ends up happening here is that we only push up and we only come in. And you can see the bottom right here. What time was this? This was the 5 o'clock 4-hour candle. But let's watch these lows. And let's see, no, that's not the gap. But let's watch these lows as well, right here in this general area. Because if price does come into it, that is where we might be headed. But we could also start to see there, if we come in, we could see something like this and then head back down lower once again. But if we do break back above, then we'll be looking for that gap fill back up into the 449 area. And that was, the 449.25, 50, that's pretty much that gap fill to be completed. Another area where one could potentially consider going short, probably at the money puts, and look to see if we just come up and then start to roll like this. We come into it and then we come down like that. So that is another thought for what may transpire tomorrow. But we'll have our levels and we'll know, how to react. But for me, as long as we're still holding, this area, we do have a chance for slightly higher prices to come in. So we could have something like an inverse of yesterday where, today we sold and then we rebounded. Well, tomorrow we could see some buying and then we come back the other direction. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But with the Fed speakers, we got to be really careful because who knows what they may bring. All right, so let's go into some of our balance zones. Take a look at those and see what we can take away from that. All right. Gonna have to start to extend these, but I will do this after. All right, let's go right here. Okay, there we go. All right. Cool. All right, so you can see right now we're hanging out in our half gap. Just slightly under. There we go. And you can see where we bounced today, right? In the bottom of this half gap. And actually, let me, okay, you can see it here. Here was that warning sign, right? We had broken, right? And this was in the evening. We'd broken under. You can see it pop, hit, could not get back and recapture this balance. And then what did we get? The sell here. This was kind of the last stop for the bulls, holding 447, 50. Once that gone, we just buttered through right to half gap. Then down here, saw a little bit of buyers coming in there at the bottom of that 445.12 area, pushed back up. Now I was looking for a short. I was looking for this to retest multiple times to get short, but I never got my opportunity. And then at the end of the day, I did take it short and it didn't work. Obviously, you can see we popped above. So that was kind of annoying. But really nice stop here right at our key area in the 444, right at the top of this balance. Oh, perfectly, almost to the T right there, right? On our upper 25% quadrant. So again, what's going to be, let's go over a bit of more of the bull case, and then we'll talk about some of the bear case as well, and we'll close out the video. All right, so for tomorrow, as long really, and you can see the structure shift right here, right? The structure shift was at 445.50. So for me, as long as we're going to hold 445.50, I will maintain a loose intraday bullish bias. That doesn't mean that there might not be some direct shorts or that we could potentially take, and we'll go over those. But I'll be looking for higher prices really as long as we maintain this balance. But if you're looking for, a little bit more confirmation, you want to be more firmly above this half gap, which then can potentially take you up into the upper part of this balance right here. And this is also one of the first areas where one could potentially consider coming in short and looking for this move back down to the half gap here. We take some off here, and then we're looking for the lower prices back down into this area, and that's where we're going to be taking off more here. And then if we usually probably at this point probably want to be into mostly runners, because we don't know if this area, this is the structure change, and then at that point if we do break, we'll be looking to trade back down into the 444 here. So that is one potential trade idea that may play out. Now we could also look at what happens if we do break out over the 447.50 area. Well, in that case, if you're taking the longs from here, longs did work out. You start to scale up in this upper quadrant area, right? We're taking the long. We start to scale here, and then we wait to see if we can break out. Now, even if you, and this is another idea, if you want even more confirmation for the long, now risk to reward here's, still about $1.50, so it's not bad. But what you could wait for here is, we come up, retest, right? Anywhere in this area, and then we make that move back up. I mean, it would kind of stink to see it come down to the second quadrant, the 25% quadrant there. I think the strongest move would be coming up, retesting right here, and then making the move back up into this big area, potential double top zone here. Of course, it's not going to be a double top unless we see the actual sellers come in. So it's just the potential, just like we talk about the head and shoulders, right? You need to see a neckline break before you can actually call it something. So this, level, it's a location. It's not an event. It only turns into an event if we actually see the sellers coming into the markets. Yes, you might have a higher probability of one thing happening over the other, but you can't really say that it is a double top for sure. But you're coming into here, and at this point probably would be getting out of most of my runners. Maybe see if we can get into this area, and then I would just try to see if we can start to continue. And that next area, that pretty much would take us into the gap fill zone, and this whole area is the gap. So that's what we would want to be watching for there. However, we might just come up to the 449. Another short idea here. If we came into here trying to take that short, trying to take that short here, or I'll redraw it, but then we start to see the selling. Whoops, why isn't this thing? Then we start to see the selling take us back down, retest here, right? We would take most off, because we're coming to back test, right? And if you did take this direct short, you're outmost here, and then you're going to see if we can make a return towards half gap. And then maybe you've got one or two, left on the table to see if we can actually come back down here. But you never know, obviously. That's why, you're always taking profits along the way. So, the 25% quadrant can be a potential short. That's closer to 449, but the other potentiality is just right up into here, and then it doesn't even make it, and then it comes back down, and then you've got a cover and a cover, and then on the last little bit into our last zone right here. All right, so what if we wake up and we are above this area? If we're hanging out, right? If we're hanging out, kind of like this. Well, this is not the best. This is an example where it broke down. But here, if we're hanging out here, just like how we did like this. If we open up and we price is chilling in this general area, all right, then I still will be looking for the long bias, looking for the long to come back into the 450, and if we do break over the 450, then we're going to be looking for 451, the top of this balance area. 450 whole number there could be a potential direct short as well, so that is something to consider for here, and then for a move back to here. Or also you've got a potential short here to come into half gap here, and then into our half gap here, and then obviously potential runners. That'd be a very big trade if that would actually break and then head back down, but another potentiality as well. All right, so I think, and let's just talk about the bear case now, because I think we went over some counter trend shorts and some long scenarios. What if we wake up and we are trading here below the 445 area? In that case, I mean, I potentially would be looking for longs up in the 444 again. But if they do show that, if they do break that structure, right, because we've got our swing low, we've got our swing low here and basically our secondary low here. But if they start to break that, then things have changed over. And in that case, in my opinion, we would kind of be doing this U-shaped pattern, right? But I wouldn't be chasing the short. I would see if we can get some kind of counter buy reaction into anywhere into this zone, and then I would be looking at the short to come back down to retest here, probably getting most out in this area. We don't know again if this is going to be a double bottom or not, but this is a big level on the daily, as we've been over at nauseum, so want to really protect ourselves in that area. But if it does break, then we're going to be looking for half gap down here in the 443, 442 area, and then potentially lower. So those are some different thoughts and ideas for tomorrow. I appreciate all the loyal subscribers and followers for joining me on each and every video. It means a ton to me for your guys' support, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you find videos like this helpful, and smash that like button. Helps out the videos get pushed out on the YouTube algorithm. It would mean a ton to me, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Let's be careful tomorrow. Remember, plan your trade. Trade your plan. A prepared trader is a profitable trader. So let's have a great day tomorrow in the markets, and I will see you guys on the other side. All right, take care.